Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining me here on Tuesday, February 26th for this Q brief. We're going to go over the last, 10 drops or so over the last couple of days of Q. Various topics we're going to discuss, and one big drop, one of the last ones we have, saying that big things could be coming within the next 3 weeks. So very exciting stuff there. A couple of things before we get to that, though. Want to say these are not the only videos that I'm going to be doing, these live streams of Q. My content's been a little bit lacking lately, in variety, but I got a lot of things cooking in the oven, a lot of things in the works right now. Videos on the Space Force, on 5G. I'm going to be doing some more interviews on this channel. I'm looking at having In the Matrix on. I'm sure we'll talk Q, and that'll be a great conversation. And then also looking at getting a few other interviews on this channel as well. So a lot of stuff in the works. And also, before we get to Q's drops, as I like to do in these Q briefs here, is show just various articles that I find in the media talking about Q. And this one here comes by way of kind of an unusual outlet. It's called Barstool Sports. Now, Barstool Sports is a sports media outlet, and they have a pretty big social media following. They have about 2.5 million on Facebook, 1.5 million followers on Twitter. So pretty big social media following. And check out this article that they put out yesterday. It says, an anonymous White House insider knew about the tug rule before Mr. Kraft was charged. The tug rule, it's sports media. They're, anytime they dive political, they're going to put some humor on it. But interesting, check this article out. So this guy writes, there's an internet influencer who goes by the name of QAnon, whose work, I have to confess, I'm not familiar with. It's kind of like a blog post here from author Jerry Thornton. And he goes on to say he was getting these emails about this QAnon person or persons very close to POTUS, and essentially predicting Bob Kraft's arrest there a couple of days before, February 20th. This is the email from the reader here that he's showing. And then he goes on to say, that's pretty compelling stuff. There's no coincidences. This article is actually talking about QAnon in a fairly legitimate way. He even says, why and how was QAnon tipped off? What were the investigators in Jupiter up to exactly? This is pretty weird that something usually benign is explaining in here, something that's usually a misdemeanor in going to one of those massage parlors for a happy ending, was talked about in such a huge way with Bob Kraft, et cetera, et cetera. But talking about, this QAnon stuff might be legit. So this is a pretty cool article. And then in the tweet featured, see my name there, they featured the tweet. Somebody retweeted a tweet of mine, where I was talking about the Super Bowl reference 2 days ago from Q. Robert Kraft, owner of Super Bowl winning Patriots, arrested. Interesting. Nice little feature of my tweet. So there's that. I linked it down below if you want to click on it, share it. But that's good. This stuff's getting into the mainstream. It's spreading. It's spreading to different niches. Like this one, getting into sports. Like then we get people who are interested in sports looking at Q, thinking of Q, having that in their consciousness or subconscious. There's different niches we'll get it into. I'm waiting for musicians. I'm waiting for musicians to maybe have the courage or wake up and make a mention somewhere. Or, of course, actors. We've had some actors throw a little bit of attention towards Q. So, different niches, different groups will start to wake up, and we'll see this kind of seethe out into the collective consciousness. But let's get into Q's drops. So we're going to start with yesterday's, February 25th, post 2888 here, and this one has to do with Patton Oswalt's pretty weird tweets from 2013. You can see here in this one, July 2013, he basically says, I am a proud pedophile. Even if you're a comedian, even if it's tongue-in-cheek joking, that's not something to joke about, especially when it's on Twitter. I mean, come on. You kind of expect this stuff to happen. You got to someday. Nothing on the internet. It's going to be secret. And then check this one out from November 2013. My dong is super friendly and loves getting rubbed by children. Career-ending Twitter typos hashtagged. Yeah, again, even if it's a joke, that's not stuff to joke about. Q says, who will be next to fall post Weinstein? Big name coming? Nobody is safe, Dark to Light. These people are sick. I think the only people that are safe out there are those who haven't been involved in this weird shit, right? A lot of people involved in it aren't safe. 2889, Q giving us a link to a Hill article. And this Hill article here was authored by Cheryl Atkinson. Now, Cheryl Atkinson, I have been following her work, and I like her work because she has been outspoken about vaccines. She's not afraid to question vaccines, put some information out there showing how they're not really all that safe, not really all that effective. So she's definitely gained my respect, and it's really cool to see Q give her a nod by linking this Hill article. And Cheryl Atkinson writes here, "Dear Attorney General Barr, advice from insiders." And this article essentially goes into a lot of questions that Barr should be asking, basically advice on things he should be looking into. And these 21 recommended priorities that Atkinson writes, all stuff that Barr should be looking into. What about FISA? She literally writes about declassifying it. She says, ask Mueller to promptly complete his friggin' Russia report. Declassify and release as much information as soon as possible. There's no context given to that one. I mean, that can mean just about anything, not just FISA documents, but man, what about all sorts of government and corporate corruption? We've got, again, more FISA, Review Justice Department, prosecution of top former officials. This is a good list, and to see it in the Hill, that's pretty big-time stuff. That's good news. And we've got next drop, 2890. So Q basically links an Anon's drop here that looks like it's a photo of Patton Oswalt. It says, went on a hunt and caught this tasty morse at Comet Ping Pong. So that's what it looks like. Now, Q says you're on the right track to this. And we'll get back to this in a minute because it kind of caused, it was an interesting sort of misinterpretation a lot of people got from this post that we'll discuss. But this next drop, moving on, 2891. And we get an Anon notices here a 0 time delta between Q's drop, the "you are on the right track" drop there, and then a Trump tweet, exact same time, 312, 1512, which is 312. 0 delta. I've had a couple people ask me what a delta is because they're unfamiliar, and a delta means time differential. So 0 delta, 0 time differential in between drop and tweet. Q says, just another day at the office. Giving us proof after proof. It's obviously not a hoax, not fake, not a theory. Mathematically impossible. So next drop here, 2892, a rival team waiting for POTUS in Hanoi, Vietnam. Q gives us this photograph of a rain droplets on a window, looking like on a tarmac somewhere there, and it says a rival team reporting light rain. I like when Q, I think Joe M tweeted this one time. He put it in a good metaphorical way. He said it's like Q's letting us ride sidecar during the busts. I like when Q does that. Gives us real-time, behind-the-scenes stuff. 2893. Now, this is where we clarify that Patton Oswalt posts. And Anon notices that photograph that looked like Patton Oswalt at Comet Ping Pong was actually him going to a movie. Very benign. And then this Anon kind of rips, goes, once again, we're about to look like a liars. That tweet Q posted is fake, etc., etc. And Q emphasizes what they said. They said, you are on the right track. That doesn't mean confirm. That doesn't mean yes. That means you're on the right track. You're kind of getting, Q says, think context, bigger picture, and connections. You're getting the right idea, but that's not necessarily truthful information. When Q confirms things, there's a few different ways they'll do it. Sometimes they'll say confirm. Sometimes they'll say yes. Or they might just repost what the Anon found without saying anything, with no context. And that's sort of a confirmation in a way, just reposting it. It's like a retweet, essentially, on 8chan. But Q said you're on the right track. That doesn't mean yes. So we have to be very careful. And I would think Q also, they have to be very careful with what they have to say. They can say you're on the right track and be covered, but for them to say, you kind of have to understand. A lot of people got sort of peeved by this, like as the Anon did here, but you kind of got to understand what they can and can't say, how they have to context things to go around national security and legalities, things like that. But, I would imagine Patton Oswalt with those tweets, context, allegedly, possibly, may or may not be involved in those sort of things, MAP. But, got to be careful with what information you run with as fact. Must verify, must verify. 2894 here, and Q gives us links to a CNN article, links to a Reuters article. I'd rather click on Reuters than CNN. Says here, Australian Cardinal Pell, top Vatican official, found guilty of sex abuse. Now, Cardinal Pell was the number 3 guy at the Vatican. Number 3 guy. So to say the Pope didn't know about this stuff, quite obviously, I would imagine the Pope would probably know about this sort of stuff. So given recently, it's pretty interesting, just a few days ago before this news broke, the Pope was saying, we're going to combat child sex abuse with, quote, the wrath of God, he was saying. Pope's scared. He is acting scared, and he is trying to cover his own ass because he knows this stuff is going down. And as Q says here, many more to come, dark to light. What's going to come out of the Vatican? What's going to come out regarding the Pope? I'm curious. I'm definitely curious. And I'm more curious as to what's under the Vatican and those secret archives. But this sort of stuff, dark to light, the child sex abuse, all coming to light. And then Q gives us a redrop here of a post of theirs from December 12th when this news was breaking in the beginning of December when the court case was still going on. And this is when the media had the blackout orders. They were basically given a blackout. You can see here one of the headlines to this article out of Australia. An awful crime. The person is guilty, but we cannot publish the story. The media is unable to report high-profile figure. Suppression orders prevent publication. So they don't want this out, but it's coming out regardless. 2895, redrop again. This was a drop from a year ago. February 13th, 2018, photo of Ruth Bader Ginsburg in Hanoi. Now, Hanoi is the exact same place that Trump is going at today, correct? Planned. Definitely planned. Like a big middle finger or a big we see you from the alliance to the deep state. Q says, good find, Anons. There's a reason they went to Hanoi. That was a message. 2896. Senate has failed to pass the Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act. Q giving us a link to a National Review article about that, saying these people are sick and evil. It's pretty disgusting stuff when a soul is already, the body developed in there. The soul, the heart, the brain. The brain's already pumping out DMT, and they go and take that life. And it's even just as sick that they want to inject that baby. If they don't abort it, they inject it with all these vaccines and circumcise it, do all sorts of sick shit. So, man, these children are having a tough time these days, and we really have to have the courage to protect them. Abortion, vaccines, circumcision, bad food, bad education, brainwashing, getting kids addicted. I see so many kids addicted to handheld devices these days that are frying their brain, and they're just, gosh, reconcile that with the neurodevelopmental rates and falling IQ levels, etc. Topic for another time. 2897. Somebody on the Chans and Anon is really pissed about that. If a baby is born alive, isn't it murder to kill him or her? Yeah. Why was this bill ever needed? Don't doctors take the Hippocratic Oath to save lives? That Hippocratic Oath, do no harm. A lot of doctors these days have went way away from that Hippocratic oath for many a reason. Thanks for the super chats, my friends. I appreciate that. You know, in these videos, they're tough to get to, but I will be able to get to those a little bit more so later on. Appreciate it, Deanna. Okay, back to the drops. So this Anon is a little pissed. And Q says, POTUS is currently evaluating legal options regarding an executive order. Watch the news. How can anyone support such evil? So we'll see what sort of executive intervention may occur there. Then with this next drop, 2898, Q testing private comms. There was a few drops made yesterday. There was a test 1, test 2, test 3, and then a couple drops that showed up that Q said to the people running the boards on 8chan, they can delete the post. It doesn't need to show up in the aggregators. And this is because what it looked like is they were testing different devices to post on the chans without the trip code, so it won't show up on these news aggregator sites like qmap.pub and qanon.pub for private communications, whatever the case. You're not necessarily meant for the public or for us decoding these sorts of things, more so meant for maybe some operator that watches the chans, that waits for go order, something to that effect, maybe some other sort of communications, but not for us. So that's nothing to worry about. 2899 photos, Q posting these photos of Dianne Feinstein, Fine Evil, in the white coat, and she is confronting Lisa Murkowski. She's a Republican senator out of Alaska, confronting there. Multiple angles, arm up, both pissed. Dianne Feinstein definitely pissed. Horns coming out of her head. And Q says puppet and puppet master, giving us a link to this Hill article. And this Hill article coming out earlier this morning, this afternoon, about Murkowski voting against Trump's emergency declaration, against Trump's wall. So she caved. Q saying puppet, puppet master. The puppet caved here. Dianne Feinstein being the puppet master in this context. Getting those strings wrapped around her puppet. 2900 here. This touching on Trump's non-racism. This meme here says, exactly when did Spike Lee find out that Trump was a racist white supremacist? All these old photos of Spike Lee, more than happy to be hanging out with Trump. Look at this guy. Big smiles on their faces. Good question. What the hell, Spike Lee? Q saying truth versus lies, the propaganda war for your mind. It's only when Trump ran for politics and Hollywood realized that all of their sick shenanigans were going to start ending that they started turning against him. Mainstream media won't tell you that, though. 2901, Q giving us a sort of overview post here. Internal civil war, all-out assault against the duly elected President of the United States. We've never experienced anything like this in our history. Because the only presidents that were, good-hearted people in the past, they were always stopped. JFK, stopped. Abraham Lincoln stopped. Ronald Reagan, they put a bullet in his chest, and then, George H.W. behind the scenes had some strings attached to him. So everybody that's tried has unfortunately not been able to do what they wanted, but now with the power of Q, the power of the NSA, the power of the Keystone, we could call it, and the power of all of us, and the power of God and the universe on side of the president, he's winning. Treason and sedition at the highest levels of office throughout many departments. Propaganda arm, all the fake news of the Democratic Party. Sometimes I look at that as the deep state party. Sometimes we see right-wing news suck just as much as left-wing news. All in full attack mode. No facts, only statements. Thank you, Sparkle. Appreciate it. Propaganda arm of the D Party, just trying to retain the control of the narrative and control over you. Narrative about so many different topics. Narrative about the president, narrative about the Q, narrative about Russia, narrative about vaccines, narrative about pharmaceuticals, narrative about history, physics, go on and on. This is their last stand. Fear of prosecution, fear of everything. Bribes, blackmail, and threats are all being deployed, which is why this is a very difficult time we're wading through, is that so many of these officials, bribes, blackmail, threats, videos, photos, compromised information on these people. So they, a lot of puppets, very easy to pull the strings on. We're at war right now. Next drop, 2902. Here we have the real Russia collusion, when the real truth regarding Russian collusion is right in front of you, but the fake news prevents public awareness, projection, and action from fake news, because they're all narcissists. They're all total narcissists and blinded by their ego. And when you have a narcissist that's blinded by their ego and they're not self-aware, projection is one of those techniques that they utilize to try to make you submit to them. They try to act like a mirror and make it think you're the issue. They flip it around 180 degrees when it's not the case. So Russia is all Hillary's fingerprints all over Russia collusion, not Trump's. 2903. This is a good post here. It's got a lot of people excited. And Anon says, feeling like Anons in the U.S. will be up late tonight following POTUS and Q in Vietnam. Q says it's going to be historic, planned long ago. We kind of saw that with the Hanoi connections we were seeing. Minus 21, looking like a countdown. Q saying within the next 21 days, big happenings are going to take place. 21 days, 3 weeks. What does that bring us to? Let me look up the date. March 19th, 31919. So I know a lot of people are going to be out there saying, questioning. A lot of shills are going to be spreading this around saying, we've heard this before. So many times Q has said arrests or truce coming this month or this time and yada yada. But, in the context of the situation where we're at right now as compared to those other times a long time ago, we're in a different phase. We're in a different, area of this operation that's going on. So I put a lot more faith in this statement than before. The idea that disinformation is necessary. Could those statements that were made before about arrests or truth coming to light, et cetera, been made to catch the deep state off guard or, make them fumble the ball, to put it metaphorically, something in that regard? In this one, I wouldn't think so. We've got 4th of July event being announced in D.C. We've got declassification that we know is imminent, and national emergency being declared. I mean, I would venture to guess 21 days, we could definitely be seeing something big. And declass, end of the Mueller report, declass, and then the snowball just starts rolling. So 21 days, get prepared, get ready. And then 2904, our last drop from this afternoon, Q giving us the Armor of God prayer. And I'll read it here. Let's go through this. Finally, be strong in the Lord and in his mighty power. Put on the full armor of God so that you can take your stand against the devil's schemes. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. Therefore, put on the full armor of God so that when the day of evil comes, you may be able to stand your ground, and after you have done everything, to stand. Stand firm then with the belt of truth buckled around your waist, with the breastplate of righteousness in place, and with your feet fitted with the readiness that comes from the gospel of peace. In addition to all this, take up the shield of faith, with which you can extinguish all the flaming arrows of the evil one. Take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God, and pray in the Spirit on all occasions with all kinds of prayers and requests. With this in mind, be alert and always keep on praying for all the Lord's people. Q. So, some things to say about this. I mean, I see some people out there get triggered by the religious tones that are in Q's posts and the Bible quotes and things like that. And it doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me one bit. And me coming actually from an atheistic background when I was young and changing my beliefs a few years ago, I embrace it now. So you got to understand that many of these operators, many of these people in the military, they have these beliefs, and that's great. That's great as long as they are using these particular beliefs for good, for servicing others rather than servicing themselves, and go right ahead. I have no problem with what you're doing, what you're preaching, and what you're saying. I have my own particular beliefs on things, thoughts on religion, thoughts on the Bible, thoughts on spirituality and a creator and our divine cosmos here, and that's for another time. But I don't let the small things, the semantics, the small differences in our lenses, our view of the world, our belief systems get in the way of the big picture, right? And don't let that happen. So that's all I have to say about that. Good stuff. Armor of God prayer. Hope you guys enjoyed that one. So that's all I have by way of Q's drops. Let's give it one more refresh to see if anything's new. Not yet. Hope you enjoyed that. I'll be back for another Q brief, of course, in the coming days. And like I said, I'll have a lot more of a variety of content coming up. A few videos on the whiteboard, a few videos not on the whiteboard, go through some articles, things I want to talk about. I'm seeing in the mainstream media and whatnot. So let me check the comments here before I head out. God is the prime creator. Absolutely. A lot of names for it. Call it the prime creator, the divine intelligence, the collective consciousness, God. We can get all philosophic scientific about it, but we'll save that for another time. Let's see here. Appreciate you all for coming. Where's the whiteboard? That's coming back. David Icke, somebody mentioned. Yeah, David Icke being banned from Australia, huh? Australia really doesn't like their truth tellers. They banned Kent Heckenlively for his anti-vax beliefs. I did an interview with Kent on this channel a few weeks ago. They pulled David Icke's visa like just hours before he was supposed to board. Shh, Australia, man. But then again, there's a lot of woke people in Australia too. I get a lot of messages and people that watch these videos from Australia. So a lot of stuff going on there. They're trying to clamp down as much as they can. Ooh, ties in with the March equinox. 21 days, somebody referencing, Q saying within the next 21 days, big things happening. And if that's spring cleaning, right? Spring cleaning going to be happening. We'll call it that. Spring cleaning of the DOJ and the FBI. That'd be good. My dreams are crazy vamped up, somebody says. So, yes, I've gotten a lot of messages from people with having crazy dreams lately. And all of, our thoughts aren't local to our heads. Your consciousness isn't local to your head. So your thoughts extend out non-locally, and all of our thoughts, all of our brains are synced to that information field around the earth, that collective consciousness. So as more and more of us start waking up, start aligning with the truth, our brains will start syncing up, right? So when you're sleeping at night, you're in that heavy REM sleep, your pineal glands pumping out all that DMT, and you're going into that time-space dream realm, that astral plane. You're going to start being able to, many people are having more lucid dreams. They're being able to control their dreams and seeing almost potential futures. Somebody messaged me about a dream she had where she was visualizing, she was seeing a mass contact experience happening. So all these UFOs, all these lights started floating and lighting up in the sky. She was like, it's contact, open contacts happening. That was her dream. So maybe she was seeing some sort of potential future, some sort of, potential timeline we could be going down, we might manifest. Some other people have been having dreams about public figures or things like that. So it's going to keep getting weirder. It's going to get a lot weirder as we keep going through these times. But as we accustom to it, it'll get less and less weird, and then we'll be able to, play around with these kind of inherent powers of consciousness that we have, being able to become lucid in your dreams take much more meaning from your dreams, understand the symbols a lot more, etc. Connect with your higher self in those dreams, but also being able to utilize these consciousness powers in the wake time. By that, I mean your intuition, your clairvoyance, your clairaudience, your telepathic abilities. Yay? I know some of you guys out there, I say that, you're like, oh, people saying Q just dropped. Sweet. Let's look at it. Live. Photos from Hanoi, eh? That's what it looks like. Shoot. Q just walking along with the team, giving us photos of the setup. God, flowers and everything. Are there any Qs in there? Look at that. And then, of course, if you reverse search these, you'll find that they've never existed before on the internet and are new. So, more proofs. We're at war. Tomorrow is about peace. The future is ours. Nice. And another test of some sort of device, maybe. Maybe they got new devices they're working on. But we'll see what comes of this meeting. Incredible stuff. Here we thought North Korea was going to nuke us a year and a half, a couple years ago. And now this is happening. So I think I'm going to end it there, guys. Be back with another one of these briefs very soon. Appreciate it. Talk to y'all again. Take care.